It was just last week we were all here for the India AI Summit, right here at this venue, this specific hall. And one of the things that made headlines at the summit, amongst the many other things that went viral and was spoken about, was a quick commerce dark store that was set up right here, which processed about 1,700 orders every day. And deliveries were made within 5 minutes, from power banks to chips to coffee. Everything was available for the guests who were visiting from across the world. And it was only apt that the AI Summit displayed something that's very uniquely Indian. Where else in the world will we get 5-minute deliveries, right? So that's something that the delegates were talking about, and that's something that India seems to have mastered very well. And the panelists that I have here are the ones behind that seamless logistics story. So when you get something, when you order something on your app and it's delivered to you within 10 minutes, there's a lot of planning that has gone into it. And we're going to try and understand that. Also, the fact that AI is here for all of us to embrace. We'll also get a sense on how the logistics industry is integrating AI to ensure that our manufacturing story is supported by our logistics story. So a big welcome to all our panelists. Abhishek, let me begin by talking to you, by asking you on the big manufacturing push that India has been very keen on, and we have set a very ambitious $1 trillion manufacturing target. Now that target will be incomplete without ensuring that the goods that we produce are actually delivered, not only within Bharat, but outside Bharat, for the globe. So I want to get a sense from you on how is DTDC, which is one of the oldest companies in this space, reinventing, reimagining itself for the new world, which is hyper-competitive and hyper-tech driven.
Thank you, Shweta. That's a fantastic question. And once again, great pleasure to be here at the Rising Bharat Summit. What interests me a lot in that question is that had you asked me the same thing about 2 or 3 years back, I think there would have been a lot more uncertainty. Uncertainty not only for us as logistics players, but also uncertainty for the manufacturers. We know the last 1 year has seen some of the biggest shakedown in the global world of trade, whether it's because of tariffs or other shocks that are being seen. But I think the one story that has stood out very clearly is that the Indian brands, the Indian sellers, the Indian manufacturers have actually taken that as a big cue to take it upon themselves and honestly start focusing on actual domestic production, actual domestic manufacturing. The beauty is that now, not just the big brands that we've seen or the MNCs which used to come and produce, we've got Indian homegrowns, direct-to-consumer brands, omni-channel brands, brands using completely very different distribution models who are now coming in and using the supply chains and logistics capabilities that we have built. Of course, quick commerce has probably led the way in terms of opening up our minds to the fact that you can get things in minutes. But it's not just about everything that can be delivered in minutes, but certainly the new generation of Indian consumers and the new generation of Indian manufacturers are leveraging the new networks that we are creating. For example, in DTDC's case, last 1 year, our launch of our rapid commerce business, where we now guarantee 2 hours same-day delivery and guaranteed day delivery across states using our 63-strong dark store network. It means that now for any brand, without having to pay for fixed costs of creating your infrastructure, you can now have even as small as 50 SKUs in a dark store. We like to call them dream stores because we see they are fueling the new dreams of Indian buyers and sellers. You can now have your product available. A lady could be seeing in Instagram your product. She could click on there and directly go and make a trade. And it will be a DTDC dream store that will be making that delivery on same-day basis. And therefore, the fact that the gap between aspiration, desire, and getting things in your hands, it's not factory to door, it's literally factory to the hands of the consumer that has now changed. And we are fueling that with our capability. So that's what I see is so amazingly transforming in India and about Indian manufacturing and also about Indian consumers.
Fascinating. Gautam, you work with several vendors. Work with, not vendors actually, brands, right? Brands, micro businesses. Do you see a change in how they are approaching the Indian market? And how do we ensure that as brands look at scaling, they do not dilute the quality, the standards? I think that will also be very crucial in the whole logistics and India branding story.
Yeah, I think India is a land of entrepreneurs. There are, a large part of the young part of Bharat is actually going and becoming an entrepreneur than looking for a job. I think e-commerce is one of that places where people find a lot of connect and they're able to create brands and create products at a very and by investing less amount of money. So what has Indian ecosystem of manufacturing done is that the capability to any brand to go back and go to a manufacturer, create a fashion brand, create a personal care brand, or create a healthcare brand if they have a good idea. And they're able to go and get a smaller batch of manufacturing, a small batch of branding, everything. So you can really start now, and that's been the case for the last 2-3 years. And that is what is fueling this flurry of new brands coming with interesting products, interesting branding. That's one part which has happened in the last few years. Now, our job there is to be able to connect all these key points of when the manufacturing is done, how does that product go to the seller or a warehouse across the country, getting that inventory there, making sure that the inventory is in sync with the website, getting customers when they come on the website, they get the fastest speed that they want, getting it delivered within maybe minutes or maybe hours or days, being able to help the brand help their inventory across different parts of the country where the demand lies, getting it fast to the customer. So it sounds very simple, but there are so many connection points there and so much software and so many integrations and so much tech involved.
Absolutely.
And actual final delivery of the goods, which our partners also keep doing. I think that is the most interesting part, and that's how these brands have been able to scale. Platforms like us, partners like DTDC, all together, being able to help these brands make sure that when they envision a brand and they're at that nascent stage, and being able to go and compete with a larger marketplace in terms of the experience that the consumer will get is something which companies like us are able to do that for them. A large Amazon or a Flipkart has been able to do that after spending a lot of money creating that kind of demand. Our job is to be able to make sure that the small guy, a small entrepreneur, is able to do the same thing, give that same experience to the customer, but by democratizing this across different businesses.
So from the time you started the Shiprocket to now, what are the changes that you see in the kinds of brands that are approaching you and this explosion of micro entrepreneurs that one gets to see on social media anyway? But what's your sense in terms of ambition, scale, and the kinds of brands that are coming up?
Yeah, I think there are. It's very, very surprising and a very, very happy moment for all of us, right? When we see these new brands, and these are brands which are creating real value. These are not knockoffs coming from China and selling it to you.
Absolutely.
These are brands which have been thought through.
Authentically made in India, completely.
Yeah, we have so many brands who are changing how fashion, how the Gen Z or the Gen Alpha is now thinking about fashion. How they're using Indian fabrics in, how athletic wear, for example, crazy things like those, and how, clean protein is coming from the Indian produce, and how is it better than a global product, etc. So I think they are really hitting the new customer out there, and these brands are those same customers, and that's real value which is being created. So real innovation happening on the consumer side, and a lot of value being created to be able to enable these small brands. All that kind of packaging, all that kind of manufacturing capability these large manufacturing companies are bringing in, which then forth are helping these brands. So think about it like an ecosystem which is now creeping up and becoming big.
Yeah, right. Angad, you're the founder and CEO of City Mall, where you're working in you're working with Bharat, you're working with tier 2, tier 3 cities, you're working in the rural areas, and according to data, in the e-commerce space, there's more demand coming from rural India than urban India. Who would have thought of that, right? Who would have thought of people placing orders online in rural India? So just take us through your journey, take us through the changes that you have seen in how Bharat buys, and what is it that it's really spending its money on?
Sure. Thank you, Shweta, for inviting me. You're right. I think in this entire euphoria about 10-minute deliveries, fashion, D2C brands, exactly the largest market in India, which is the low middle income consumers living in tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 towns. Also in the largest category, which is grocery. Grocery happens to be 40% of the household spend has been completely ignored. And the biggest reason why it's been ignored so far has been because the logistics infrastructure rails required to deliver a grocery order profitably, reliably at the doorstep of the end consumer has not been made. So, the entire thesis, I would say the vision of City Mall is to build that distribution infrastructure into the tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 households to make, to provide the lowest cost, best price, best quality groceries delivered at home, obviously with love. So, so that's the entire idea about what City Mall is all about. What we've been seeing is, and when you talk about the low middle class consumer group in these towns and cities, there is a lot of aspiration, and that aspiration is being driven by the content proliferation. So, just for as an example, on our platform, we see a lot of upcoming newer categories like Korean noodles, which is one of the largest growing categories for us, being sold on our platform more than the normal noodles. So, so a lot of that aspiration is being driven by content, and our job as a platform is to make those aspirations affordable for these consumers.
So is Bharat premiumizing, or is it trading down?
So, interesting question. So, Bharat is becoming aspirational. They are wanting to try out newer and newer categories that are aspirational, that are premium in nature, but they want to make sure that they want to have it at affordable price points. So, for example, an aspirational product, let's say like a peanut butter, would sell more in smaller packs than in larger packs, because those smaller packs make it more and more affordable to that consumer segment. So, yeah, so it's like aspirational products and product categories at price points that don't hurt their pockets is what Bharat needs.
Okay. I want to talk about data, because data is the new infrastructure behind delivery and logistics. How are you all mining that data? And what have been the key trends that have emerged according to you? And I also want you to do a little bit of crystal ball gazing on, how do you see the logistics industry adapting to the new data trends that are emerging?
No, it's a great question, Shweta, and I think maybe I'll connect it with what you started off with about the fact that right here in this hall, less than a week ago, we had the AI Summit. See, I think for a long time we had been looking at data, but data was too transactional, too fragmented to actually make sense of it. Once we started putting in our investments in terms of artificial intelligence, the ability to churn the data and use it as a true source of power, as a true source of customer experience, I think has really increased. So just to give you an example, in our case, we have our own in-house GPT, which is called the DDDC Interactive Virtual Assistant. We call her Diva. In the last 1 year alone, we've had more than 750,000 queries from consumers, out of which 82% of them were completely handled by her, satisfactorily, never even required a human being to be involved. And the 18% queries that actually needed a human agent, came with so much more information and understanding of the consumer's problem or the question, that the response times when we gave them from the human side was far lower by almost 25 to 30%. And this is serious impact that we're seeing in. On the same end, the same AI and data today allows us, our AI is able to understand and communicate with consumers in 17 languages. I think probably the most that anybody is able to do in Southeast Asia at least. And as a result of that, you can be anyone from any part of the country having a conversation. You could even have a handwritten label on a parcel. And now with our OCR built, equipped with our AI, 95% of that is getting translated into perfect geo-coordinates, which we are using on our own address mapping system that we have created now to get more triangulated deliveries possible. And you said about crystal ball gazing. Here's my thought. In less than 12 to 15 months' time, we see that you could be going to any of your preferred GPTs, whichever they are, never ever visit a website, and do what is called agentic commerce and simply have a conversation with the GPT, start by saying, here's the product I want to look at, where do I need to take it from, and suddenly you have a shipping query that comes in, and all of that can be done from a GPT without ever even seeing our website, where at the back end there are integrations which allow it to happen. So I'm saying the world literally going there, experiments for that are already happening, and I won't be surprised 15 months or 12 months or in the next Rising Bharat, which possibly be about Risen Bharat, we would be having those conversations.
Hopefully, agentic AI would have been something made in India and not.
It will. It
Yeah.
absolutely will.
Yeah.
We will do it.
We will do it, absolutely. Let me come to you, Gautam, on, in terms of impact of technology on reducing costs of logistics. Where are we in that journey right now? Because costs of logistics continues to be a big pain point for a lot of companies, and considering India has been pitching itself as an alternative to China, and geopolitically speaking, right now is the time when we are looking at getting a lot of businesses to come and set shop here who would have traditionally considered China. So how can technology bridge that cost gap in India?
I think there are two-part answer to that question. I think there is one e-commerce part of it, where I think companies like us are able to help our customers reduce their shipping cost. Not just by the one part of that is how which courier, which partner, what kind of logistics they have to choose to get their goods delivered. The second part is that in the Indian e-commerce landscape, a lot of money is lost on failed orders or fraudulent-like orders, where the retailer and the brand, the logistics company, all of them lose a lot of money because a consumer ordered a good and the goods ordered something and he's not taking that. So a large part of, or he has sent goods back to the seller, and they were actually not the goods that the customer has sold to them. So there are a lot of losses on that part which happen today. And it's not in India, also globally. It's a global problem. India has its own way of looking at that problem, because India has also a lot of COD happens in e-commerce. Typically that problem is actually a data problem than actually a logistics problem, because the logistics is still doing the job of delivering the goods. Data problem is that there are consumers who have a particular type of behavior. There are goods which are sold to customers may also end up with high losses. So it's a data problem. It's a problem that what category you're selling at, what average order value are you selling at, which consumer is ordering, from where is he ordering, at what time is he ordering. So a lot of things that a platform like us can do to be able to enable to be able to solve for those losses. And these are not small losses. They're like 20-30% contribution to their expense. So in Indian landscape, and large companies, small companies all face that. That is one part of it. This is the e-commerce part of it, and I think this is a problem which has been solved by data. There's a lot of AI, I would say, models which are being used to be able to not only identify but also run workflows which are maybe voice models or call models that we need to do. We run today to be able to reduce those losses. Beyond that, I think Indian logistics per se, where the large amount of money is spent, where the goods have to move from one part of the country to the other part of the country, that part is still, we are lagging behind. I think the technology is there. All the parts of the technology, it's either the automations on the highways, or it is automations of the vehicles in terms of tracking, etc. Track and trace, all that is there. I think the infrastructure, as that improves, our cost will reduce. But again, today we are still the highest logistics cost on a GDP basis against any global market. So we are still more the expensive one. I think that is largely backed off infrastructure. I think the technology is already there now.
Okay. Angad, when it comes, we were discussing about how AI is going to really change what we buy, how we buy, and so on. How do you see that getting integrated into your business? And will Bharat be isolated from it? Will it be just an urban India phenomena, or do you think that AI will continue to influence choices even in tier 3 towns in rural India?
So on the contrary, I think Bharat tier 2, tier 3 towns will be positively impacted by this technology more than the larger towns, and I'll tell you why. Today on our platform, 80% of the orders are through recommendation systems that are powered by AI. That's 80% of our orders. As humans, we don't influence, what the consumer sees, etc. All that is being recommended by an AI system. And an AI model is significantly more efficient as compared to a human doing it, because they can be more hyper personalized for every user. What is the right product at this point in time, given what they have purchased earlier, etc., can be done much better through an AI system than a human doing it. And obviously, as you go into like tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 towns, your propensity to normally browse the app the way we do it is lesser as compared to the more affluent consumers. Hence, using technology to get the right products recommended to you at the right point in time is much higher for that consumer groups. And now with voice AI coming in, it's going to be completely different. I think from a behavioral shift perspective of how the offline world works to how an online world works is going to collapse. The difference is going to collapse completely. You're going to order through your mobile app just how you would go and order in an offline world. And all this is possible only because of the developments that are happening in this technology.
So the next question, which I'm sure is also probably on everyone's minds, is on the impact of AI on jobs in the logistics industry. This is an industry that employs lakhs of people. And Abhishek, I was reading about a new dark center that you've started, which is completely run by women. Now, if we were to look at what's happening in China, where they have zero human intervention in their dark centers, they're fully automated, do we see India also following that path? And what are the kind of jobs that you think will be done away with? And what will the new job structure look like?
See, I think this debate has come up many times through many cycles of technology development that have happened over the years. Ours is an industry where the human touch and the human impact is always very critical, because at the end of the day, we are talking about physical delivery, physical pickups, and physical transaction of products. Yes,
but
there
robots do deliver.
Yeah, they do.
And it's happening already.
They do, but I think India is still some distance away from probably getting to that, simply because our markets, our cities, our urban and semi-urban places are not yet as homogeneous to be able to introduce that. I think labor costs still are quite favorable for us to still see more value in certain parts of our business. What I do see is that repetitive jobs in certain parts of the supply chain, especially the middle mile part of it, for example, sortation, picking and packing of products, computer vision which can be used to now see where a package should be moving. I think those are areas in which human intervention will be lesser, which means AI will be more of an agent supporting, assisting, enabling the human beings to be more efficient. But at the same time, for the same reasons that I'm sure Gautam, Angad, we all of us believe, as more and more Bharat penetration of services and requirements is going to go in, we know that we have not even seen 10 or 15% of the total market. So you will have probably the need for resources and people enabled with technology going far more deeper. And I think as you quoted China, as China grew and China achieved success and became more automated, it did not mean that people were jobless. It did not mean that people were not being engaged. Okay. It just means that people are engaged more meaningfully with more value being added.
Gautam, your thoughts on this?
I think nothing very different from what what Abhishek is saying. But think about it like this: what will AI do? AI will just fuel the consumer, consumer being able to buy more. The consumerism of the Bharat to be able more people to buy more, produce at a lower cost. That will happen. But what will happen is that when people buy more, there'll be more logistics. Look at any developed economy or developing economy, the logistics still happens by people. Robotics is absolutely on the back end, but from the front end perspective is largely people. That's the most efficient way of doing it, even beyond robots or using drones. Indian ecosystem, all the cities are tightly knit to each other, right? They're densely populated. People is the most efficient, still the most efficient way. This is what happened with fast delivery, 10-minute delivery coming in. There was more employment there. You had e-commerce coming. There was more employment there. So all the last mile of people going online and buying actually is directly proportionate to number of people being on the job and delivering goods to you. I think that's why it's more people. I think it's going to be more employment with more AI coming into at least consumer products.
Okay, Angad?
I think so. The people who are involved in sort of moving atoms and the physical labor, they won't be impacted by AI. But the entire layer in the delivery ecosystem that enables that, they will become 10x more efficient. So the same person would be able to do 10 times more than what they would
Then you
be.
need fewer people to do that job, right?
Either that or the size of the pie needs to go up.
Or expansion.
Yes.
I
Okay.
think the pipe will expand more than that's always.
I think we all believe in that. The pie
That's
is
always happens.
Very quickly, we're out of time, but one quick wish list from the government on what can be done to enable more efficiency in our logistics space. Very quickly, Abhishek, you.
just remove any hurdles for domestic or international trade.
Specific,
We will
you have to be
take
specific. You can't say any
Well,
hurdles.
even faster and more brighter execution of all the FTA deals. To make
Okay.
sure that Indian products can reach the hands of people across the world.
So
And
more
we will be taking
more
this.
FTAs. Gautam?
I think there's something interesting which has already happened, where how the new law in terms of helping Indian exporters through the e-commerce mode, being able to sell to global markets, being able to get their goods back. Earlier it was considered as a new import. Now you can actually get it back without paying the additional import duty on your own goods that you had sent forward. So all those things are very interesting. I think there are small little things left around it in terms of helping Indian companies sell to global markets. I think there are very, very small few little things left in that space that has to be corrected.
So in the last 1 year or so, we've seen a sense of urgency from the government as well. There were initiatives announced in the budget, expansion of the amount of what MSMEs can export without approvals, that, and then we've seen the government go easy on quality control orders. So, but we've seen that happening in the last 1 year. Angad, if you were to suggest 2 or 3 steps that the government needs to take this simplification process forward, because logistics is going to form the basis of our manufacturing push.
I think I would say just integration of technology into all the government processes, whether it is compliances, regulations, GST bills, etc., etc. Just the integration of technology into government will help companies like us a lot to be more and more efficient.
Integration of technology into government.
Yes.
Okay. All right. I have some more time. So I want to talk to you all about the big elephant in the room, which is China, because there are inevitable comparisons that are drawn between India and China. For India to ride this manufacturing wave, there is so much that China has already done. Is it viable for us to copy the Chinese playbook where logistics is concerned, or do you think India will need its unique solutions, which could use a bit from China, but we'll have to devise our own models that lend us efficiency? Abhishek.
I think we have to have a reality check that China has had the credit of policies and systems that have been developed over 3 decades that has allowed them to become the dominant force that they are in terms of what they do in manufacturing or global supply chains. India's journey has just begun. But I think what I'm most encouraged by is in the short time that we've had, how Indian manufacturers, how Indian logistics companies, the whole ecosystem, including the government being a big part of it, the way we are moving and the pace at which we are moving, I think we must give a lot of credit to ourselves. And I'm a strong believer that India is not a homogeneous market. India is a very heterogeneous market. Our demographic dividend even within the country and the potential of using that across the world is very unique. And that means that how Indian manufacturers and Indian logistics companies are going to find solutions for distribution or getting products in the hands of people within India and across the world. They might be inspired to some extent by what China has done, but I think we will find our own unique way to do it. I think we have taken Jugaad also to the next level. It's no longer the helplessness that Jugaad used to be. I think there's true innovation that's now happening. And the Indian way of innovating is going to be different than any other way of innovating. And I think that's what works best for India and Indians and Bharat as well. And I'm very confident about that.
Gautam, Indian way of innovation.
I think all the markets change very quickly. What China has done in the last many decades is also said to be changed. There'll be a new guy changing that. I think India has that opportunity. India has the domestic capability for that domestic market to also support what we manufacture is sold here. Think about this industry that I specifically always think about is toys industry. See how it is transport. It has become very different. Everything at some point of time, everything was coming from China. And think about all the companies. I was talking to this one company who is now exporting 60% of what they produce to the US and the European market. It's a product which is out of India, designed in India, now sold globally.
Wow.
And there's no Chinese competition. And it happened in the last 5-6 years. This company called Skillmatics, right? They make these interesting
Right.
gifts
Yes.
for things for toys for kids, right? Very interesting, right? And
Yeah.
that's also coming from the support that the government decided to give the toys industry. And I think we have enough innovative entrepreneurs to be able to enable that.
Okay.
Manufacturing today still is only a small bit of actually creating a product and making it a success.
All right. Angad, very quickly, your closing remark on the competition with China.
I think the times have changed. Chinese market when it grew were at different times. The context was very different. I agree that India is not a homogeneous market, it's a heterogeneous market. I think the real need of the hour right now is driving domestic consumption. And that's going to come through major reskilling programs for our entire population. Given this, AI is already here. There is a need for major reskilling in India to happen to catapult us into the next phase of growth. That's, I would say, it's not China versus India. It's actually India versus India and AI.
That is so interesting. And on that note, on that very optimistic note, we'll close this conversation. I think Angad sums it up beautifully. It's not India versus China anymore, but India versus India and Bharat 2.0. So with that, thank you so much. We do hope that entrepreneurs like yourselves and several others continue to drive the India-Bharat story forward. Thank you.
Thank you.